What's up, everybody? Liam Murphy here, aka the Blazing Bishop, here with another edition of Blazing Bishop Breakdowns. Today, we're going to be looking at a game that one of my old students recently played. I think it's helpful to look at games between non-grandmasters because there are tactical mistakes in these types of games, so we can learn a lot from them. And it's fun to look at games of my old students. So playing with the black pieces is my old student. Her name is Anju Frigida. She is 10 years old, from New York City. And at the time of this game, she was rated 1100-ish. Keep in mind that, with the pandemic, not a lot of over-the-board chess was played. So ratings of kids especially are kind of a guesstimate until they get enough games played. What I remember about Anju is she is a really hard worker. I had a requirement at my school that you had to do 100 chess kid puzzles every week, and I do not think she ever missed a week. She always did her puzzles. She's very tactically strong, and she's an aggressive chess player. Playing with the white pieces I believe she was another girl, and her rating was, I believe, 1450. So quite a big rating difference between these two players at the start of the game. Again, Anju about 1100-ish. The person playing with the white pieces about 1450. And so let's look at this game. I just think this game is a ton of fun, and we can learn a lot from it. So the opponent opens up with e4, and Anju plays c5. They play knight f3 and d6. So here Anju is playing the Sicilian defense. I showed her the Sicilian. I'm not an expert in the Sicilian by any means, but I thought it fit her play style as someone who's an aggressive chess player. d4, the open Sicilian, and black captures, trading a non-center pawn for a center pawn. The knight captures back so that the knight can't develop with tempo hitting the queen if the queen were to capture. Anju plays knight f6, hitting the loose e4 pawn, and white defends the e4 pawn. And here Anju plays a6, kind of a Najdorf variation here. But a lot of Sicilians, you're going to play the move a6, preventing white from making use of the b5 square. The opponent plays bishop g5, one of the most normal moves here, perhaps putting pressure on the queen in the future. And Anju plays e6. I have trouble pronouncing the Sicilian. Still technically a Najdorf, I believe, but I think it also can be a Schneiderwegen. We're going to skip that one. I don't know how to say it. But the idea is that the bishop's going to go to e7 here to offset the white bishop on g5. Queen d2 is played here, defending the bishop, and now white can castle queenside if they wish. And here Anju plays bishop e7, a normal developing move. And a lot of Sicilians, black would like to get in the move d5 whenever they can with this d6 pawn, which is currently kind of weak, this pawn. So you'd like to get it to d5 to trade it away or something like that. White plays f3, defending the e4 pawn, but opening up the king a little bit, which the bishop, covers these dark diagonals, and perhaps preparing to storm with moves like g4. Anju plays b5, a great move here where the bishop likes to be fianchettoed, not always against a strong structure like this, but now this b pawn can even threaten to come to b4 sometimes, lowering the defense of d5 and e4. And just an attacking move too, if white were to castle queenside, and black were to castle kingside, well, then you're kind of pawn storming, and black is pretty close to making contact with the enemy structure. White plays h4 here. Not quite sure about this move, but probably just trying to pawn storm, anticipating black castling on the king side. And Anju continues to develop her pieces here, bishop b7. White plays g4. So now definitely going for a pawn storm attack, kind of like how Bobby Fischer used to play against the dragon, although Anju's not playing the dragon here. Her pawn's now on g6. And really, white is pawn storming over here, but black has not castled kingside yet. So, black does not have to castle a kingside. They don't have to castle at all. They could castle a queenside. Or, you could kind of like make these invested turns by white here, like 1, 2, 3, 4 turns by white to attack on the king side. You can just not castle maybe, and then the investment of these turns looks kind of silly when white has still not developed all their pieces and they've not castled their king. And really white looks to be castling probably queenside here, where you're going to be facing the pawn storm, because castling on the king side, I don't know, you got a lot of holes in the camp here. You got a bishop pointing at you. You got these pawns pushed far up the board where black can make contact with them. So Anju plays queen c7, getting the queen. Queen goes to c7 a lot, where it can further defend the e pawn if white were to castle. Now the queen's no longer lined up with the queen and rook, and kind of a developing move here. Just kind of waiting. I probably would have developed the knight, but getting the queen on c7, not a bad move. And white plays h5, so investing more turns in this pawn storm, and black just ignores it. They just develop their piece, which is fine. You definitely wanted to spend some time calculating, what about h6? What about g6? But getting the knight out, you're going to need to do that anyways. And knight to b to d7, defending the knight on f6, defending e5. Perhaps this knight wants to come to c5 or e5 later. Here, white plays h6, and Anju responds with g6. Definitely the best move here, where white has spent all these turns moving these kingside pawns, and now with the move g6, the position's kind of shut down unless white can get in f4, f5. Just not giving any open files for the rooks here, and black can even think of castling now on the king side, as long as they're not going to get mated by like a queen on g7 or anything. So with one pawn move, you've kind of shut down the attack of this pawn storm. So I definitely think the h6 pawn was a little early. Knight to e2 here by white. I do not like this move by them. Again, you have to understand that you have to get castled. You have to get your pieces developed before you go for an all-out attack. So they're playing knight c to e2, perhaps trying to get the knight to somewhere like g3 or f4 to continue the attack, where black's not castled over here, so it's not even clear you want to be attacking there, and you have not completed your development here. Anju plays rook g8. I don't get this move. I don't like this move. I'm not really sure what this move is doing. I guess in the future, if the f-pawn moves, perhaps this rook has a future here. But instead, you can probably, like, bringing the rook to the c file seems like a great move. White probably wants to castle on the queen side, and so getting this queen and rook battery makes a lot of sense. Completing development of this rook, and by moving the rook to g8, you're not allowed to castle either. So I'm not quite sure what rook g8 was. I did not talk to Anju about this game, so I'm not really sure. She just sent me the PGN of it. White plays knight to g3. So now we're seeing this maneuver of them. Again, they're investing a lot of turns. 1, 2, 3 turns moving this knight when, I don't know what this knight's doing here. It's not going to go here. It's not going to go here. I guess maybe you can get an e5. It could go here one day, but this knight does not really have a clear, future on g3. There's like tactical ideas of playing d5 and discovering an attack on the knight. I'm not really quite sure what the knight does here. And again, you have not completed your development. So here we have white, who is nearly a 1500 rated player, and they're still playing games where they're not completing their development. They're not getting their king safe. So, really below the, probably the 1700 level, you're going to find games like this by chess players where they're not focusing every single game of, getting their pieces developed and getting their king safe before they attack. I understand you want to attack if you're an aggressive chess player, but it's easier to attack when you get all of your pieces into the chess game. Anju plays knight e5. Thinking about this move, I guess it's an improvement of the knight, right? The knight was not great on d7. You got to get your knights active and up the board to be good pieces. The knight can come to c4 perhaps. If f4 was played, giving this knight a kick, now you can come to g4. So centralizing the knight seems like a pretty decent move. And black captures on f6. Anju takes back with the bishop. And white plays g5. So I think that white liked this tactical idea here, and or not tactical idea. They liked the idea of just like getting these pawns pressed up against the king. They were hoping for something like bishop e7, and now they're going to play moves like f4, f5. But Anju did not play bishop e7. She played an amazing tactic here. So pause your video if you need some time. This move definitely did not jump out to me at first watch, but this move was really quite amazing that she found. So going to reveal the move in 3, 2, 1. Instead of moving the bishop, she played knight takes f3. Wow, what is happening here? First of all, the knight is forking the king, the queen, and hitting the knight. And if you watched my last video on how to solve tactics, you know that you have to know your checks in chess. This is how you find amazing moves like this. So knight to f3, white has really only one move. The knight must capture. So the knight captures. And here, Anju plays bishop takes b2 with major threats in the position. First of all, of course, she's hitting the rook. But that's not all she's threatening. She's also threatening bishop to c3 with a pin on the queen to the king in an absolutely winning position here. Really, white has no good moves. In the game, white played knight e2. Anju took the free rook and now is just in a commanding position. If we compare the material, white has 5 pawns. Black has 7 pawns. White's pawn structure is pretty terrible here, where they have a bunch of isolated pawns, and these pawns that are advanced for really no clear reason. Knight to knight, bishop to bishop, queen to queen, and then knight versus rook and rook versus rook. So white is up several points of material. Their king is safer, and white's pieces are just really confusing here. So I just want to show that again. That was a pretty amazing tactic. Knight takes f3 with the idea. And so how did she find this amazing move? And by the way, this is a type of move that would trick very strong players, like, up to 2,000, up to masters maybe even. It's a shocking move to be played, and she's calculating the forcing moves. Okay, you must take my knight. Then I capture a pawn. So she's looking at her captures. And then I have a threat. So that's what tactics will get you. And that is how you beat quote-unquote stronger players, where there's nearly a 350-point rating difference between these players, is you can beat them tactically. You keep pieces on the board. You make sharp positions. You can trick them. Okay, so knight e2. Anju takes the rook, and white plays a3. Anju puts the bishop back to b2. Perhaps she didn't think it was too safe here. White plays queen b4, hitting the bishop. Anju takes on c2, defending the bishop and making this king feel even less safe. White captures on d6, and Anju plays rook d8. So I don't like this capture by white, bringing yet another piece in for black here. And this rook is really strong on the d file right next to the king. White plays queen b6, putting some pressure on this bishop, and tons of things to calculate here for black. Obviously you have this check, you have this check. Let's see what Anju played. She played bishop takes e4, defending the bishop, and there's just no checks to the black king at all. Really frustrating for white here. They have this queen invaded on the board, but this bishop is defending c6, so there's absolutely no checks to black's king, even though it's not castled itself. White plays king f2, getting out of the checks from here. And here, Anju simplifies. So she has a winning position. She's up material, and she's wisely looking to trade pieces and simplify the game. Super good idea. The king captures on f3, and Anju plays queen f5, invading in the position with a check. The king comes to g2. Anju plays queen g4, more checks in the position. The king comes to f2, and here she plays the move queen e4. Now, I think bishop d4 is kind of a move I like that's sticking out to me. And why do I like this move is because it's going to absolutely simplify the game. So this is something I would tell Anju and really everyone watching this game to do is, black has a commanding position up material. And yes, you want to attack this king because it's so vulnerable. So if you can find checkmate, definitely do it. But bishop d4 is definitely a move to be aware of. A, it's a check. But B, it just simplifies this position to really a no-lose position for black, where after the knight must capture, because the bishop was hitting the queen and the king, the queen would capture back, the white queen would capture, the black rook would capture, and black is up the exchange and several pawns. Just really, a position that they could cruise to a win in. They'd play moves like king e7, they'd get this rook in the game, and, they'd go promote a pawn and win. But that is not what happened in this game. She played queen e4, white played rook h3, more checks, queen f5. It's so hard for the white king right here, not having, really the lesson for white is that if they had castled their king and developed the rest of their pieces, this does not happen to them. But now they are feeling what happens when you don't castle. You have an exposed king in the center, and black took tactical advantage. So rook f3. She plays queen d5. Queen c7, she chases the queen out. White cannot trade queens. Queen f4, bishop d4. So finding this trade here, or the white knight is actually not forced to take in this case, so they do not. And bishop b5, rerouting the bishop. I like this idea. The bishop's going to come to a5 perhaps, and there are real checkmate threats here of just queen d1 with the bishop attacking f2 as well. And here, white flagged is what it says in her notes. So super, super impressive game. Hope you guys learned from it. Perhaps I'll look at more of my students' games in the future. I definitely like to keep up with their chess progress. If you liked this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Goodbye.